Back to reality, my friends. This is what we're used to. And I'm smiling, but it's only because I don't want to cry. Today was straight up ugly. The game, the loss, the weather, the special teams, the whole damn thing. Oh, and speaking of ugly, did I mention that 4th and 1 that Kevin Stefanski tried to get cute on their end of the field? Embarrassing. Shameful. Terrible. And a bunch of words I can't say here on a news station, okay, even on the internet.
Kevin Stefanski needs to be let go. I'm going to say it over and over again. Kevin Stefanski didn't want Shaduer Sanders. I didn't even want him in the 5th round. Kevin Stefanski has done everything he can to make sure that Shaduer Sanders, a 5th round pick, doesn't do well in Cleveland, even though it seems impossible. You just couldn't stand to see Shaduer tie the score. You couldn't stand to have to stand up there after the game and answer questions about what you've been doing to Shaduer, how you've been trying to hurt him, and how you've been trying to stop him from growing. The Cleveland Browns lost to the Tennessee Titans, who are 1-11, by a score of 31-29. For the people in the back, let me say that again, 1-11. The Titans had only won one game all year. Cleveland was favored by 4.5 points at home, but they still found a way to lose in the most Browns way possible.
Fake. Sanders has it, hesitates, a lot of room to run. One of the Titans fell down, and Sanders slides across the 40, getting a first down.
Today's game was a great example of how to break a young quarterback's confidence. This veteran head coach showed the whole NFL that he'd rather lose than let his 5th round pick do well. And the proof is so clear, so damning, and so in your face that even the most loyal Stefanski supporters are leaving. Let's take a moment to talk about Shaduer Sanders, the child that no one wanted. The 5th round pick that fell in the draft because scouts are dumb and general managers think too much. Kevin Stefanski didn't even want this quarterback on his team. 23 of 42 for 364 yards and 3 touchdowns passing. Another 29 yards and a rushing touchdown on the ground. A 97.7 passer rating against a Titans defense that was ready to play football. Shaduer Sanders just had the best game of his career. He threw for 364 yards and 3 touchdowns, led the Browns in rushing, and scored a rushing touchdown from 7 yards out. This wasn't how a game manager should act. The rookie didn't just lose the game for his team. Sanders played great. He was throwing perfect passes all over the field. Passes that fell into the hands of receivers like snowflakes. Laser throws that cut through defenders. He made clutch completions when his team really needed them. The kid played like a 1st round pick, like a franchise quarterback, like the answer Cleveland has been looking for since they came back into the league. Kevin Stefanski acted like he was radioactive around him.
No way anybody in the Browns locker room likes playing under Kevin Stefanski. Stefanski's terrible. Guys, look at this.
The game got off to a bad start. The Titans bring the opening kickoff back to the 15-yard line. The first play from scrimmage went for 4 yards. Then, a sack where 2 Titans defenders came through without being blocked and knocked Sanders out in the end zone. Penalty for a false start. 4th down and 18 yards to go from the 7-yard line. You could smell the safety before it happened. 7 a.m. in Tennessee, nothing happened before Cleveland woke up. 14-3. The Browns were getting hit in the mouth, and Sanders had to be the hero from the start.
Shaduer Sanders just played by far his best game as a pro. He just threw for 364 yards and 3 touchdowns and led the Browns in rushing and scored a rushing touchdown from 7 yards.
But you know what? He did it. He kept on fighting. He kept throwing. He kept doing things that a 5th round rookie shouldn't have been doing in his 8th career start. That's a great pass. That is a great pass. That was a great touch, and he put it where only his receiver could catch it. The Browns' defense was getting destroyed. 184 rushing yards against a team that only won one game. Tony Paulo ran through Cleveland's front 7 like they were traffic cones. The Titans were in charge of the line of scrimmage, the clock, and the pace of the game. But Sanders kept bringing Cleveland back, giving them chances and showing everyone watching that he's not like the others. Jerry Jeudy, who hasn't been seen all season, suddenly remembered that he's an NFL receiver. Sanders threw the ball exactly where it needed to go, and he caught 3 passes for 76 yards and a touchdown. Can you guess who showed up today? Jerry Jeudy. Jerry Jeudy had an unplanned good game, 3 for 76 with 1 touchdown. I don't care, he's still a member of the Jaguars. Steve Smith said that Harold Fannin Jr., the rookie, caught 8 passes for 114 yards. The kid was making chances, and Sanders took advantage of each and every one. Then there was the 80-yard drive. 7 plays that were perfect down to the last detail. Sanders tore apart the Titans' second day like he'd been studying their defense for months. They kept making completions, moving the chains, and getting into the end zone. Just drove 80 yards in 7 plays to make it 31-29 and put them in striking distance. He finished it off with a beautiful fade route to Phantom for 7 yards and 6 points. A throw that made scouts all over the league pull out their phones and text the general managers to tell them how badly they messed up by letting this kid fall to the 5th round. 31-29, down by 2, 1 2-point conversion away from tying the game and probably winning it in overtime because Sanders was on fire and the Titans looked tired and Cleveland had all the momentum. I don't have a clue. Shaduer was playing in a way that made it likely that they would win the game in some way, because that's what they do. Sanders had just thrown for 364 yards. Earlier, he had run 7 yards for a touchdown. He had shown that he could do well in the red zone. He had already shown that he could make big throws when he was under pressure. He had done everything you could want from a quarterback. Kevin Stefanski took him off the field. With the game on the line, your quarterback is playing the best game of his young career in the Wildcat formation for a 2-point conversion? The whole season is once again on the line for the potential tying 2-point conversion going with the Wildcat. After Shaduer showed time and time again that he is the answer in the red zone for the Cleveland Browns, it was a disaster. Judkins got the snap and ran straight into a wall of Titans defenders. There was no pitch, no misdirection, and no creativity at all. Just a bad run that left 60,000 Browns fans in shocked silence, wondering if their head coach really threw the game away on purpose. The theories about the conspiracy aren't even theories anymore. At this point, they're just facts. Stefanski didn't want Sanders to be drafted. He didn't want him in the 5th round, according to reports. And now he's making choices that look like he's trying to sabotage things. He'd rather lose and prove he was right about Sanders not being the guy than win and have to admit he was wrong about the kid's talent. Kevin Stefanski did not want Shaduer Sanders. I didn't even want him in the 5th round. Kevin Stefanski has done everything he can to make sure that Shaduer Sanders, a 5th-round pick, doesn't do well in Cleveland, even though the odds are against him. Quickly, let's compare Sanders to Cam Ward. Cam Ward was the 1st overall pick, the guy who was supposed to be the best player of his generation, the quarterback that scouts were going crazy over. 14 out of 28 for 117 yards. Sanders threw for more than 3 times that distance. Ward looked like a normal person. Sanders looked like a celebrity. Shaduer completely outplayed Cam Ward. I'm going to say it again. I said it before the draft. Shaduer Sanders should have been the 1st pick by the Tennessee Titans. The 5th-round pick made the 1st overall pick look bad, and it wasn't even close. I either like Cam or love Shaduer Sanders. He has everything. He's on a bad football team that played a bad football game today, and Shaduer picked them up out of the snow and almost did it all by himself. Tennessee's plan for the game was simple. Don't turn the ball over, run it, and control the clock. Football 101. And it worked because Cleveland's defense acted like they had never seen a running play before. The Cleveland Browns gave up 184 rushing yards to the 1-1 Tennessee Titans in Cleveland, which I didn't see coming. 184 yards rushing. If you do that, you'll lose at home. And they did, in the end. But even though the defense was falling apart and the Titans were controlling the ball, Sanders kept his team in the game. He threw the ball in ways that changed the game. He led drives that scored points. He did everything that a franchise quarterback should do. And his reward was watching from the sidelines as his coach called a failed Wildcat play that cost them the game. It's driving me crazy. It's so annoying. This is the most Cleveland Browns thing that has ever happened. And that's saying a lot for a team that has mastered the art of losing when they should have won. No one in the Browns locker room likes playing for Kevin Stefanski. It's clear what this message means. We don't believe in our quarterback. We don't have faith in our future. We'd rather lose with a trick play than with our rookie. And don't get me wrong, Cleveland should have won this game. They were the better team. Their quarterback was better. They had every advantage except one: good coaching. People who like to analyze things would try to defend this. They'll get out their charts, percentages, and calculations of expected value. But you know what? You don't play football on a spreadsheet. In football, it's important to have momentum, confidence, and faith in your best players when it matters most. Sanders was very angry. Sanders was sure of himself. Sanders was prepared. Stefanski said, "Nah, let's run Wildcat." Oh my God, an 80-yard drive in 7 plays. The second goal is at 7. He throws the sweet little fade to the fan. It was a lovely ball. A touchdown is worth 7 yards. And we win again. He keeps doing this to Shaduer over and over. They go crazy at it. Why? The Titans defenders were literally doing Sanders' signature celebration in the end zone after they scored earlier in the game. They were making fun of him, being rude, and making it personal. And Sanders threw for 364 yards, giving his team every chance to win. That's being mentally tough. That's what makes a person. When people doubt them, that's what franchise quarterbacks do. But even his own coach doesn't show him the same respect that the other team's defenders did. At least they admit that he was good enough to make fun of. Stefanski acted like he wasn't good enough to make a 2-point conversion. Jimmy Haslam has to decide right now, tonight. Does he want to be a team that always loses and goes through coaches and quarterbacks? Or does he want to build around the talented young quarterback who just showed he belongs? Jimmy Haslam, if I owned the Cleveland Browns, I would go in there tonight and fire him for the wrongs he has done to Shaduer Sanders over and over again. You can't do both. You can't keep Sanders and Stefanski at the same time. It's either this or that. And after today, the right choice should be clear. Get rid of Kevin Stefanski. Not tomorrow, not next week, but tonight. Go into that locker room and tell him he's finished. Tell him that what he did to Sanders today was not okay. Let him know that Cleveland is moving forward with their young quarterback, and that Sanders deserves better than to be a part of that. Browns fans deserve more. This team deserves better than a coach who cares more about his own ego than winning games. There is talent. The quarterback is present. The guns are there. The person calling the plays is the only thing keeping Cleveland from winning. And after today, after that Wildcat disaster and seeing Sanders stand on the sideline while his team lost by the same amount as that failed 2-point conversion, there are no more excuses. The Cleveland Browns just played their last game with Kevin Stefanski as head coach. He just doesn't realize it yet, but after what we saw today, when he completely betrayed his young quarterback, he has to go. This is it. There's no going back. You can't turn this into a lesson. There is no analytics chart that explains what happened in the last few minutes. The future is Sanders. Stefanski is in the past. Cleveland needs to finally make the right choice and choose the future over the coach who has been trying to ruin it. 364 yards, 3 touchdown passes, a rushing touchdown, an 80-yard drive in 7 plays when his team needed it most, and a beautiful fade route for 7 yards and 6 points. And his reward was seeing a Wildcat play fail and possibly losing the rest of the season? That's what it's like to live in Cleveland during the Kevin Stefanski era. This is what this franchise has turned into under his direction. After this loss and this decision, it's time to move on and let Shaduer Sanders cook without anyone trying to burn down the kitchen every time he goes to the stove.